and welcome. Fat Squirrel's Feast Day is Friday, February 28th. I am Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and Blue Sky. Thanks for coming over. It's a blue sky kind of day. It's also very windy, so thank you for braving the wind advisory. Thank you for forgiving the wind chime. I've closed all the doors between us and the wind chime, but I'm like, can you still hear it? I'm not entirely sure. Not that it's not a pleasant sound normally, but it's a little bit clangy right now. You know, a normal person would go and remember to take those down during a wind advisory. Not this normal person. Okay. But yeah, thank you for coming over in these times. Are you exhausted? I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted, y'all. Normally I would say for no good reason, but you know what? So many reasons I'm exhausted. So if you're feeling exhausted too, please let yourself rest. Please let yourself rest. Please don't put any bizarre, made up productivity goals on yourself other than the ones that you literally have to do because you have to pay your light bill. I understand. I'm that person too. But like, yeah, please. If you want to start a new thing and it gives you joy, yes, go for it. If you're looking at your yarn and feeling like, oh, I really should use that, give yourself a little break, especially now. I got no bandwidth. The kiddo's coming home tomorrow for spring break for just like a few days. And I also my legs between the tripod because I need some sort of physical constraint contact. When I get really ungrounded and really spinny, I have to either sit on the floor or I have to like have something that's like gonna hold myself together so I don't spin out in like some like crazy ice dancing fiasco. Not ice dancing, they don't do those, do they? Some figure skating fiasco. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so the teen's coming home and I'm just like, I got your ice cream. I'm gonna wash your sheets and I'm airing out your room. The floor may or may not get swept. They won't even notice. But like, I will be like, oh, but I don't know what's gonna get done. That's not to complain, but that's just more of a like, if you're having a moment where you need to hear somebody else be like, then same friend. Same. Yeah. So let's talk about some stuff. Thank yous. Just want to say thank yous again, just for hanging on, for hanging in there, for letting me do this weird job that I have. I explained to my therapist, who I'm going to for like, not for very long, but like several months. I actually explained to her what I do for money the other day. And I was just like, I mean, I have that moment every time I tell somebody about it. But like when you tell somebody about it in like a quiet space where like you're the main thing that's happening, it's even weirder to tell somebody about. So thank you for like hanging out with me, some of you for a very long time. And if you're new to the show, well, God bless you. Thank you for giving the wackadoodle a chance. So thank you for all y'all folks. And thank you to patrons of the podcast. If you're interested, you can find more information at patreon.com/thefatsquirrel. But special thanks to folks who are participating in the Discord group. It's been really nice to have a place that I know that I just need to put the phone in another country. But part of having that blitzed out brain feeling is reverting to those blitzed out media like mindless media things. And not beneficial. But I will say what is beneficial is Substack. Well, sometimes. Okay, let's not get into that. It's Substack is beneficial when I'm like, does anybody else notice this is really, really crazy? And then everybody on there is like, yeah! So that is helpful in that way. But the Discord channel is really helpful in just like I really need to hear somebody talk about gardening. And then like also to talk about what the heck is going on. But then there'll be a post about their dog sitting. And then there'll be another one of like, what is going on? But it's people going, what is going on? Not being like, your house is on fire, which it is. But sometimes you just can't know that all the time. So I really appreciate folks there. We've had a few more people kind of jump on. And I'm seeing a few more people comment. We've got great book recommendation channels that are happening. Fun tarot channel that's happening that I need to get more involved in. But so yeah, sometimes I have a little trouble because I feel like it's weird to put my face on the internet for so long and then be like, and also I have more to say. Like it just seems kind of like ridiculous. But I appreciate all of you for allowing me to like muddle through somehow. So thanks y'all. Thanks. This week's podcast is going to have shameless self-promotion. It's going to have Papercraft. It's going to have stitching in the form of mending, and it's going to have knitting, and then it's going to have reading. So that's what this episode is going to contain, and let's get on with it. So, in shameless self-promotion! That's not how I usually say that, but that's how it came out. I'll have an update Saturday, March 1st, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, fatsquirrelfibers.com. You want to say hi, Gus? I'm shamelessly pedaling my dog. Gus needs treats. Gus needs a haircut. Don't you want a bag, sir? Okay, 9 p.m. Eastern, March 1st, fatsquirrelfibers.com. Okay, I said all those things. And it's going to be a pre-order this time because, well, quite frankly, there were 4 fabric colors that I wanted in this print, and I could not decide between them. And the only reasonable way to do that is to do a pre-order. Because I was like, I love all these colors, but I'm not sure which one you're going to like. So, yeah. So here we go. They're going to be in my 3 most common sizes. And I'll just show you one of each, whatever. I'll show you some things. Okay, so maybe I should show you a higher contrast one first. Okay, I'll just show you the big one first. Okay, so this is my Aran sweater size. This, I think Gus can fit in there. This is like great for sweater or like heavier weight sweaters for like bigger people or blanket projects or stuffing multiple other project bags into. And look at that. Right? Isn't she lovely? Now, I want you to know this has like a sort of like medieval tapestry vibe in its coloration. So there are some places where it's like almost sort of banded, like the color, it's like slightly variegated in like not variegated, but there are slight variations, almost like, again, like your weft color is sort of changing, and I'm pretty confident that's intentional. And there are other places where it's like darker, and then again, it'll be sort of like in a darker patch. It almost looks sort of worn. So that's just something to be aware of, if that's something that would bother you. But isn't she sweet? So there she is. So all 3 sizes will be available in all 4 colors. Okay. So this size will be available in red, blue, green, and yellow. Let me show you the other colors. Okay. So the Aran sweater is like the big print. So then there's also a smaller scale. And so this is the sweater size in the blue. Right? And again, you get these slight, variations so that you get like a sort of, again, like an antique weft kind of vibe. So that's the blue color. And then there's, in the large wedge, I'll show, this is the sample, the large wedge, but again, available in all 4 colors. We have the green. Right? And then last but not least is our golden. Aren't they just so charming? I mean, I love like a toile tapestry vibe anyway. And then I can't help, I don't know, I've like never been like a person who was like, I'm a rabbit person. I collect rabbits. But lately I've just really been enjoying like hares and rabbits and I don't know, feeling the vibes. Maybe it's like the like rebirth, like the, you know, the abundance, I don't know, but it's enjoyable. I think it's also just, I think it's really just, they're cute. So yeah, so those will all be available Saturday, March 1st, pre-orders. And the listings will be up for about a week. fatsquirrelfibers.com. Yeah, I think that's all the things I need to tell you. Bye. Okay, so did you hear me say Papercraft? Why, yes. Yes, I did. Okay. Disclaimers. I am not a Papercraft person. Okay, like I know some people do amazing. Okay, whatever. I don't need to. Just I'm not a Papercraft person. However, I was on one of the things that this thing has on it, and did I ever show? I don't think I showed you this. This is, I got myself a like supercharged, well, now I know it's supercharged, cup warmer that like actually gets hot. Like I think the cup warmers like for the longest time, they were supposed to not actually get hot. So like if you touched them, you would be like, oh, that's warm, but it's not like, oh, that could burn me. Well, this one I have now can burn you. It goes up to like 180 degrees or something like that. Well, the bad thing about it is, well, it's not, now that I've realized it does this, I'm okay. But I have it like on my side table next to where I have my coffee in the morning. And that table kind of is like oh, I gotta move my legs, I'm really jostling you. That is kind of like a catch-all sort of table. So it always just has way too much stuff on it and it's very small. So in order to like recoup the space that this little cup warmer takes, which is like, you know, that-ish. When I first got it, I was like, I just would put my phone there, like as I was working on other things or whatever. But this on switch is very sensitive. It's like a touch switch, not like a physical like click switch. And I didn't realize I had turned it on. I nearly had a heart attack. I would not say that I am particularly emotionally attached to my space talking device. It is very convenient, but I went for a very long time not getting one. But it's a very expensive thing. And so when I noticed that it was hot enough to melt my case, which luckily I have like a 2-part case, but the phone itself was also quite warm, I was nearly sick. But she's fine. Where was this going, y'all? Oh, I think I just accidentally showed this and I was like, maybe I should explain why this looks like it was on fire, because it was. Okay. But I was on this device and amazing people. This little window into amazing people is amazing. And I am so appreciative of that aspect of this this little window into space. And so one of the people I found is Merrily Littered. So it's MERRILEELIDDIARD. Merrily Littered, I guess, is probably what it is. And stop right now and just go look. You don't have to own, you can just look, but if you want to, you can get like printables that are not like an alarming amount of money to spend at any one time. So she has an amazing is it Jane Austen? An amazing Jane Austen set that she has like set up. It's like paper dolls essentially. But also like all of the like trappings, like the scenery and whatnot. It's like if paper dolls were like an advanced stage production. So she has one set where the Jane Austen is in like a little suitcase or something, and then like she pulls out the like diorama-iness of it, and so you have like all the depth of like the different plants, and then like the fancy house in the background and the people in the amazing. But there was also a Nomi option, and so I was like, well, maybe I should just get it to try. That seems reasonable. I have the cardstock I could print it on, and so I did. And like, look how cute these little things are. I'm just going to show you the ones I've gotten so far. So mine is called, let's see, Mushroom House and Pixie Characters, a printable playset. So here's just the ones I've just started cutting that. And I'm not a good paper cutter because I just use an X-Acto knife, and I'm sure there's like techniques and tricks, but I'm a human. I did print mine on craft cardstock. I think this is 250 GSM, which is like 95 pound, I'm gonna guess. That's like such a basic one. But aren't you already like, whoa. He's got apples in his garden. Okay, I'm not going to show you all of them, but they are all terribly charming. And then there's also some like just like grayscale ones that are like sort of like plants and stuff. Anyway, there's so many, but like there's a bunch more children that I have not cut out. And in fact, on her website, she has this one pictured with a little bit of wool or cotton wool or something on his beard. And she also has like one of the she has a basket. And so she has like glued in little like apples, like little 3-dimensional apples in them, and is like have them hanging on one of the little characters' arms. You know, usually I am really into crafts having a purpose. It's actually sort of one of the hang-ups that I have about a lot of things that I want to do. Like printmaking is not like a functional thing. And so like ceramics, I'm like, oh yeah, that's like potentially that could be a functional item. But I'm not an artiste. I'm not a fine artiste. So sometimes I get really in my head about like, well, that's not going to be functional. That's probably not even going to be good. You know, like the things we all do. But functionality is like a big hang up for me. So it's kind of amazing that I actually did anything with this, but I'm so charmed by them. And so I'm trying to decide if I like put them on like an actual piece of card, like a, you know, make them like a 3-dimensional sort of jam. There is a full on like height. I don't know how tall it is. There's like an actual like mushroom house that you can do. And like make it like almost into like a little doll house thing in the back of the mushroom. It's giving me like Everdell tree vibes, like that kind of vibe. I don't know. But it's so heckin' charming. So I'm trying to decide if I should like fully like shoebox it, like, you know, in a diorama way with like some cute little papers, or if I just want to like tuck them into my, you know, into my bookshelves here and there to like have them be terribly charming. I can't decide. But I have totally enjoyed it. And I really was like, this is going to be terrible. I'm not going to know how to do the papercraft. I'm not going to know how to do it well. Like, oh, hers have this like perfect, like 1/4 inch border around the whole thing and like mine's gonna go wonky. Guess what? It doesn't actually matter. It's totally fine. It doesn't, I mean, mine are totally wonky and I'm surprisingly okay with it. The only problem I ran into, I guess maybe it's probably a combination of things. Probably it's like a combination of me not having a lot of familiarity with using an X-Acto knife to cut things out with. And then probably also like the heavier cardstock. But like a ridge sort of forms around the edge when I was cutting that. And it really did bother me. And I was like, But then I realized I could just use a little spoon and sort of burnish it down. And that took off that like raised edge. So I was much happier with them after I did that. But I don't know why the snail really's got me. Like, she's got me. I think in one of the images, she even has like this happening. Oh, Jiminy Crickets. Right? Whimsy. Right? Gimme some whimsy. Gimme that. So, you know, hooray for artists in the world. We always need you. We always need you. But I do think that there are times we need you more. And unfortunately, it's probably also the time that is most challenging for you because we don't seem to collectively value you as much. So if you're out there doing good things, making good things, being a good thing, thank you. Thank you for maintaining empathy in a climate that feels very hostile towards it. Okay, so then let's get into mending. So I have this shirt that I purchased from LL Bean a donkey's age ago. Is that a saying? Donkey's age? A pretty long time ago. I think like we're thinking like maybe 10 years. Anyway, I really like this shirt. It's like this like sort of like micro waffle, but the inside is like slightly brushed, not like super, but just a little. It's nice. It's texturally very pleasing to me, both the inside and the outside. And it's a men's shirt, and it's in the men's section, and I have just worn it to pieces. And finally this year, for some reason, it seems like all at once, I have started to get the seam. It's pretty much fine everywhere else, except the seams on both arms are just essentially wearing through. It's not the sewn seam, it's the fabric of the seam. Yeah, so we're getting that. So I kind of pondered, and then I decided, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. So I'm not done yet, obviously. I'm just gonna show it to you in progress, and then I'll show you when I'm finished. I mean, I have other places where it's starting to get a little bit dicey, but there's no like actual holes anywhere else. Actually, maybe that's an actual hole. She might not be long for this world, this gal. She might be a dish rag soon. It's okay. It's okay. You've done a good job. So what I did is I purchased these Visible Mending. It's a printable PDF. I purchased it on Etsy, and the shop's name is, Hoop Art Stitch. And I think they call them like Visible Mending / Sashiko inspired, something like that. But you can just print them onto these like Fabri-Solve sheets. So what happens is if you've done embroidery or anything with these, what you do is you can just, after you're done stitching, you just can dissolve this in water, like in the sink. And it comes right off. So it's sort of like it's a stabilizer, and it just sticks on. You can print this sheet in your printer, and then it's like a sticker that you can just cut in this case and stick onto your fabric. If it's something I'm doing a lot of stitching on, I probably would baste around the edge, but I didn't feel like this really necessarily needed to be basted, so I just stuck it on. Oh, so you use it like just as your stitching lines, and then you can wash it out. So I decided to use a knit piece of fabric as my patch on the inside. It was leftovers from a t-shirt that I made. And so I just used safety pins to pin it into place. And then, yeah, so this is just the back of it. And I'm just using pearl cotton. I'm not doing anything to like hide the knots. You could definitely do that. You could put your knots between your patch fabric and your actual outside fabric. But again, it's okay. She's not long for this world. So yeah, but I gotta say, I started doing this morning, and I really did have to make myself stop. I love this kind of stitching. I hate mending sleeves. Okay, I don't hate mending. I do not like mending sleeves. They're fiddly. It's like you've got to there's like not enough room in there. You're constantly like trying to like bunch up the fabric, and then like you've got to like, and then you got to switch it and do it over here. I do not like mending sleeves. I just mended a sleeve for my husband had a flannel shirt, and like I looked at him the other day and I was like, why can I see your elbow? He like, it's like that. It was like a whole, like, it was like so big that I literally had to cut like this whole piece because everything in here was just string. Like nothing was, like there was only warp. It was a mess. And so to do a patch that big is just a pain. Or at least it is for me. And so I really do not love mending sleeves, but here we are. So yeah, so hopefully that's going to go well. I'm just using pearl cotton. I don't know which number it is, but I think it's the skinnier of the two. Yeah, it's the skinnier one. So is that 12 or 8? I don't know. But I'm just using pearl cotton in like this off-white color. I really saw somebody do mending that was one of these patches that came in this pack, and it was in like this beautiful fluorescent-y, limey green. And so originally I was like, I'm doing that. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe. Just chill out for a minute because I don't know how this is going to look at the end. So maybe it'll be better if it sort of blends in a bit. So yeah, so that is my mending, and hopefully I'll have that done and be able to show you next time. Hey, while we're here, I just want to ask a question. It's this one is fine. But when you have a niche, like a knit cuff that gets just not necessarily worn out, but just completely loses its elasticity and it's just like this flaccid, like thing. Do you have a good tip for making that a better situation? I mean, I guess you could technically like just take it completely off, like, and then make it smaller and put it back on, but that really feels like a lot. That doesn't sound fun. That doesn't sound fun. So I was just wondering if you've like had any success. Like I've definitely had ones where like the edges got threadbare, and so I just like put a little bit of like bias tape essentially on them. But in this case, it's actually the elasticity that has just gone out of the knit over time, and it's just very like just hanging on your shoulder, like the hanging on your wrist, like, which is not my favorite. And so I thought like maybe I could put like a little like 1/8 inch elastic or something in there. I could thread it through, like not tight because I don't want it to be like a windbreaker, but I don't know. Do you have it? So if you have a tip, I would love to hear it. So yeah, that's mending. Okay, so then in knitting, let's just get into it. So a few weeks ago, I think I was talking to you about a sock pattern by Charlotte Stone. Yeah, they were the little robin socks that had like the West Yorkshire Spinners striped colorway, and then like, well, one of the samples was that with the cute little robin on the cuff. Well, since I'm back and knitting more socks again, I thought, well, it would be really fun to do a colorwork sock. Maybe not like the full thing, because I do really like the elasticity of like a regular stockinette sock or even a ribbed sock more so. But like one that has just like maybe a cuff or a toe or something like that. And she has lots of those options. Like she's got some that are full color work, but she's got other ones that are just the cuff or just toe and cuff. So I decided on her pattern, Fancy a Cuppa, from her book, Joyful Colorwork Socks. So they look like, I'll put a picture in here. They are a 3-color option. You have like teapots around the cuff at the top and then teacups. Did I say teapot? Teapot at the top, teacup at the bottom. So I was like, oh, those will be cute. They have like a nice, good long section of just plain stockinette in them, so it won't be too fiddly. I do not like the ones I'm making. So I have not used the opal solids, and they are, to my fingers, significantly thinner than the Untertwasser or the Little Prince colorways that I've been working with recently. They are what feels like to me like a light fingering weight. Like they be skinny. And I'm not a fan. So she's not blocked. She's just, but like, here's my little cuff so far. And I will also say that this is color work that does have rows with 3 colors in them. Also not a fan. It wasn't too bad though. I actually didn't, when I realized that there were 3 colors in a row, I was like, what? But it wasn't that bad because it's just like, you know, 80 stitches or something. Because you do have a few more stitches, which is another thing I do like. She has you do increase after when you're in like when you're in color work, you're actually working more stitches than when you're in stockinette, like just plain stockinette, which super glad to see that. And in fact, she also has you change needle size, which I did not do because like I'm familiar enough with how my gauge changes that I felt like the stitches would be enough. Okay, so yes, some of the rows have 3 colors. It wasn't as bad as I thought, but I just do not like knitting stockinette in this opal single color yarn. I don't like it. I'm on 00s. My fabric still feels, I don't like it. So I don't know. I'm gonna just sort of like let it hang out for a minute. But I was actually trying to force myself to work on it. I was like, this is not productive. Again, rest. Do not hold false ideas of productivity and your need to reach them. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna like put this on a back burner for a while. And if I decide that I was just having a feeling and it's passed, then that's great. But if not, then, you know, there'll be a free table at Super Summer Knit Together. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it at all. I just don't care for it. This is the first time I've ever used their solids and I'm not a fan. But I love their colored yarns. So, you know. Okay, and so then when I started going to every week, I decided that I would only show you new projects and finished projects in knitting. I'm breaking that rule this week because I have a larger work that's in progress that I just wanted to check in with y'all about. And that is the Wild Winds vest. And that's by Wild Knits Glasgow, I'm gonna say. And yeah, it's like a little like slip over, I think is what we're calling them. And it's worked in Fisherman's Rib. And I am knitting mine with the no longer available Blue Moon Fiber Arts Tarhi worsted in the Spawn of Scum colorway, I want to say. So sad this yarn is not available. I literally was like, maybe I just need to take this yarn to the mill and be like, can we do something like this? Because I could get behind this yarn or something similar to it. It's got quite a few plies. I think it's 3, maybe 4. I think it's 3. But it's Tarhi, and I just love a Tarhi yarn. I'm a sucker. But anyway, So I have decided to not work mine as suggested. So as suggested, you start here in the back and you knit to below the armhole, or you know what I mean, to the bottom of the armhole. And then you pick up here and knit the front, and then you join them in the round and work in the round. Well, the way I like to work fisherman rib does not work in the round. And so I decided that I was not going to do that, that I would work them flat. And then at the end, I would decide how deep I wanted the side seam to be. Because the side seam is sort of, it's like a split hem and sort of a like relaxed arm side. So it feels like the side seam is like a variable that I don't quite understand, because I don't have a lot of garments with that sort of structure to them, or that style or whatever. So I thought, I'm not exactly sure how much of a side seam I want. I'm not sure how long I want this thing to be. So I'm just gonna not, and I don't want to knit it in the round. I'm just gonna not work it in the round at all. And I'm just gonna work a giant rectangle with a hole in it. That's an oversimplification. And then when I'm all done, I'll decide if I want, or how much of this, wait, no, it should be this way. When I'm all done, I'll decide how much, this doesn't work. When I'm all done, I'll decide how much I want to have actually like seamed up. And I might not even, I might just put like a button closure on it. I don't know, we'll see. Because my natural thought, or like my natural tendency, was to knit this cropped, because I do love everything cropped. But, sorry, there's just a very buzzy insect that happened somewhere. Oh my gosh, is that the stink bug? I saw him the other night and then I forgot about him. I bet that's him. So my natural tendency is to make things cropped, but also it's sometimes nice to have things that are not cropped. So, I mean, that's just... Thank you for coming over and listening to me say words. I really appreciate that about you. I decided I was gonna knit it longer. And I'm sure part of it was that I actually just really love this yarn so much that I'm like, no, I must use every bit of it. So that's literally what I'm gonna do. I had 2 balls of it. That was the other great idea about knitting it flat and then seaming it, is that I would not have to alternate colors. I could just knit the back in one ball and knit the front in one ball. I don't love alternating balls of yarn. Not my favorite. So that was another incentive. So I'm just gonna knit the front until it's either seems reasonable for like a flowy, again, art teacher who smokes illegally in her car on her breaks, because, so it's gonna be that length. So either it gets to that length or I run out of yarn. And then figure out what to do with the back, whether I want it to be like a dropped, like a split hem with a dropped hem in the back, or like what, I don't know, we'll see. I'm just going off vibes. I'm going off vibes. And then the pattern actually has, you do the neckline and the armhole in like a double knitting technique, which I showed you last time. I'm not sure that I want to do that. I really love just the edge that I currently have. And the only place I don't like it is right here where I did like the little cast on for the bringing the neck together. And I think that could very easily be like fixed by just sort of like weaving in this end in an interesting way. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to do edging on it, which is another reason that like theoretically I could just knit the front until I'm done, because I also put short rows into the front, and that is actually in the pattern. Kudos. In fact, not only are there short rows for bust shaping, and again, if you're new to like bust or like adipose shaping in sweaters, there's sort of like 2 two different ways you can do it, typically. One of them is to add width to the sweater at the widest part of you. And another way is to add length. And the theory behind the length is, again, not that it's going to give you more width, but that it'll actually, in my case, be enough fabric to go over your bust. Because if you measure your body from like your shoulder to your waist in the front, it'll probably be different than the length from your shoulder to your waist in the back. Because your fabric's got to go over some stuff, in my case, in the front. So the method she uses is doing the short rows, which gives you that length to go over a hill fort, or go over the hills that may be someplace. The elevation changes, the topographicalness of you, wherever that might be. In this case, probably in this area. That's how she's written it. So that was to say that she actually has 5 different cup options. Good on her. So this is a pretty good, in terms of like size inclusiveness. We go from 30 inches to 60 inches for the wearer's bust circumference. So that is not including ease. And then we have these, what did I say? 5 different cup options. Lovely. And so far I feel like it's written, I have no questions. I have no qualms. I would have no reason to not recommend it. So that is, again, the Wild Winds Vest by Wild Knits Glasgow. And I mean, I know I'm glad you're here so we can just enjoy it. I really wish you could feel it, because the fisherman's rib, I mean, you can see how much my finger is moving, right? Like, it's so squishy. So the fisherman's rib already does that, but then again, with this like multiply tarky, it is just so squishy. I have a crush on my unfinished sweater. That's right, I do. And you'd think, as much as I love it, that I would be done by now. But part of it is also, part of it is like fisherman's rib is slower, just in general, for me to knit anyway. And I think technically for everybody to knit. But also, like, I've had moments where I was like, wait, what am I going to do with this? What is this? How do I change that? And so I've just sort of had, like, again, the gray cells. They are black. The squishy juice is not flowing. So I just had to be like, you know what, I can't even deal right now. Or I'll be honest also, like, I've had Gus on my lap and been like, I can't have this giant thing flipping around. You know. Oh, and so by the way, I don't think I said, those skeins from Blue Moon are like 250 grams. So they're not just like a straight 100 gram skein that I'm getting away with just having 2 for a vest. So yeah, that's the knitting. Okay, so then in reading, I have 3 fiction things to tell you about and no nonfiction. I looked at the nonfiction pile and I was just like, no. And in fact, yes, all of the fiction I did read was quite escapist. I mean, fairly. So let's talk about it. So the first thing I listened to from my library is Rules for Ghosting. It's a book by Shelley J. Shore. And I think, okay, let me just read you the blurb. Ezra Friedman sees ghosts, which made growing up in a funeral home complicated. It might have been easier if his grandfather's ghost didn't give him scathing looks of disapproval as he went through a second HRT-induced puberty, or if he didn't have the pressure of all those relatives, living and dead, judging every choice he makes. It's no wonder that Ezra runs as far away from the family business as humanly possible. But when the floor of his dream job drops out from under him and his mother uses the family Passover Seder to tell everyone she's running off with the rabbi's wife, Ezra finds himself back in the thick of it. With his parents' marriage imploding and the Friedman family memorial chapel on the brink of financial ruin, Ezra agrees to step into his mother's shoes and help out, which means long days surrounded by ghosts that no one else can see. Okay, and then there's a love interest. I'm not going to read that part too. Sorry, I go back and forth of whether to read the blurbs, but like somebody has crafted the blurb and it feels like they're going to be better at it than I am. So that's kind of why I read them. I'm not sure. I've been questioning it lately. Feel free to tell me what you think. So I really enjoyed this one. I would say that I enjoyed the first 2/3 maybe more than the last third, but I'm here for it. Some people seem to some people I think wrote negative reviews primarily because the aesthetic of the cover is sort of like paranormal romancy, and the title is sort of like paranormal romance-y, and that's not what it is. It does, and it's also sort of like, it's sort of, I don't know, I would say it's maybe slightly heavier than like your tradition, like your average run-of-the-mill rom-com or like contemporary romance or whatever we're calling them. I mean, obviously, there's going to be themes of death in it. So it seems sort of like people had sort of mixed reviews, but it seemed primarily like the people who did not enjoy it didn't enjoy it because they thought it was going to be something that it wasn't. I don't know, but that seems like the most of the like not great responses about it. But I didn't have any expectations when I got it from the library. I must have heard a blurb about it somewhere. So I did not go into it with any expectations, and I really enjoyed it. One of the things that I think I enjoyed most about it is that it describes a few of the Jewish traditions surrounding death and just around holidays in general that were really beautiful. Like they were very beautiful. And so I really appreciated that sort of like glimpse into the character's family. And it's very different than anything I grew up experiencing. Like, I feel like we've had traditions in my family, but none of them, A, reaching back into like deep time, and then B, none of them that were so consistent through that deep time, right? Like that had like literal words that were consistent, motions that were consistent, like foods that were consistent. And so like that's just such a different experience than I've ever had, that especially I think right now when things are even more chaotic than normal, that felt very comforting. Even though it's not mine, it felt comforting that it's there. So I really appreciated those few moments. It's not like it's like moments, like a few moments. But they were really like, I just felt like they were very thoughtfully written and I appreciated them. So yeah, I gotta be honest with you, I'm just not feeling the regular like romancy stuff right now. I went through a period a while back where I was reading more romantic modern romances or romantic comedies, and like I was really enjoying them. And right now I am not on that plane. I tried 2 other ones that were highly recommended, and both of them I was just like, shut up. Which is terrible. You're probably thinking about me right now. But I was just like, I do not care. So I will be honest with you, the romance like aspect of the book was just, I didn't care. I didn't particularly care. But I think that's definitely a function of where my brain is right now, or like where my emotional landscape is located right now, more so than anything the author is contributing to that equation. You know, it's still a lighter book. Like, we're not getting, like, the characters, even though there are like flaws, they're not like deep conflicting flaws. They're like, again, the mom is having an affair with the rabbi's wife. That sounds like so. Yes, that's a problem. But the way it's presented is very much like, this person is perfect. This is the one thing is not perfect about them. You know what I mean? Like that vibe. But that's very, like, that's so typical, right? It's like me complaining that there's not enough world building in a cozy fantasy, right? Like, it's just sort of like a function of the genre. Generally. Not always, but generally. Or at least an acceptable function of the genre. An expected characteristic of the genre. Jeez Louise. That's Rules for Ghosting by Shelley J. Shore. And then the next book I finished is Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. And this is sort of like a gothic, ghosty, paranormally, but set in Kentucky, which you don't get many. That's an unusual combination. Like, that's an unusual combination. And so I appreciated it. Here's the blurb. Opal is a lot of things. Orphan, high school dropout, full-time cynic, and part-time cashier. But above all, she's determined to find a better life for her younger brother, Jasper, one that gets them out of Eden, Kentucky, a town remarkable for only two things: bad luck and E. Starling, the reclusive 19th century author of the Underland, who disappeared over 100 years ago. All she left behind were dark rumors and her home. Everyone agrees that it's best to ignore the uncanny mansion and its misanthropic heir, Arthur. Almost everyone, anyway. So there's more blurb, but I'm not going to read more. Recommend. 4.5 stars for what it is. I don't know that this is okay. 4 stars, because usually, like, I don't think it's going to be like resonating with me over time, but I did enjoy all the time I spent with it. How about that? Did you know this whole like star rating is actually just like an Amazon invention? I read an article about that years ago, I think, that like this is literally invented by Amazon. Like, book reviews used to just be a review. Like, there was a ranking. They just had to be words and you read them. But because Amazon needed to like codify or like condense them in a way that sort of like equated them across voices and whatnot, they sort of came up with this star rating. Isn't that interesting? Or like, I mean, I'm not saying nobody gave something X stars, but it wasn't like the typical way books were reviewed. So I reject this star rating in this case. I enjoyed all the time I spent with the book. I'm probably not going to think about it much after that. But this one, it does have like a romance line. It has flawed characters that are actually flawed, not perfect characters who do something wrong. And there's good character development. It's character driven. I thought it was well paced. I thought it was a good length. I didn't find myself at any point being like, how much is left in this thing? I mean, only to be like, how are they going to, what is going to happen in that much time? You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. But I wasn't like, what, is something going to happen? It wasn't that feeling. So I appreciated that. I liked all the characters and their flawedness. And I didn't mind the romance, because the romance was like involved beating up otherworldly creatures. And that's okay. I'm good with that right now. Romance that involves bludgeoning things. Okay, that's fine. But not so much with the feelings, okay? Let's just have a little bludgeoning and then keep your swoony to yourself. Thanks. So yeah, I appreciated it. That's Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. And then the last things I will share with you are 2 novellas that I read, and they are the Murderbot Diaries. Now, I have been recommended these books so many, or these novellas, books, whatever. I've been recommended this series more than once. Like sometimes in comments, but also over on Patreon. And I was just like, okay. But for some reason, I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. They're very enjoyable. So I have listened to both of them from the library. They were both 3 hours long, or thereabouts. I feel like it's a really good series for right now. Okay, I'll read you the first one. In a corporate-dominated spacefaring culture, planetary missions must be approved and supplied by the company. Exploratory teams are accompanied by company-supplied security androids for their own safety. But in a society where contracts are awarded to the lowest bidder, safety isn't a primary concern. This sadly may be the most realistic of the books I've read this week. On a distant planet, a team of scientists are conducting surface tests, shadowed by their company-supplied droid, a self-aware sec unit that has hacked its own governor module and refers to itself, though never out loud, as Murderbot. Scornful of humans, all it really wants is to be left alone long enough to figure out who it is. But when a neighboring mission goes dark, it's up to the scientists and their Murderbot to get to the truth. He also just really wants to be left alone to watch media. Me too, Murderbot! Me too! And then in the second one, he meets like a sentient spacecraft. And their interaction is so good. So, yeah, I mean, I know you're going to know right away whether or not you're willing to try this. Like, so, if you're willing to try it, try it. It is the dystopian future I'm in the mood for right now. I just realized I was supposed to talk about something else. It is the dystopian future I'm in the mood for right now. Again, governed by terrible companies who are literally only out for profit. But Murderbot there. So yeah, that's this week. Oh, I'm sorry. So that's the Murderbot Diaries. Oh, shoot. I don't think I actually said who wrote them. Martha Wells. And I read All Systems Red and Artificial Condition. I think those are the first 2. They're not the first. There's like a 0.5, but these are like number 1 and number 2. So thanks for hanging out. I hope you have a safe trip home. I hope you get a little blue sky. I hope you rest when you need to rest. I hope you take care of yourself and the people you can, and forgive yourself for those that you can't. That might be controversial. I'm not sure how I feel about that statement. I reserve the right to withdraw that. I'm not sure. But like, you can't take care of everybody. That doesn't mean you can't make actions to collectively care for everybody. Okay. Low these times, y'all. Low these times. Yeah. I am imperfect. So imperfect. Okay, that's maybe a better one. I hope you can give yourself a little grace for your imperfections. It's hard. It's hard for a lot of us, I guess I should say. It's not at all hard for some of us. But hey, it's a good sign if you do sometimes have trouble giving yourself grace. Or if you haven't done work to get yourself to the place where you automatically give yourself grace. Maybe that's what I should say. So like, yeah, maybe that's not the worst thing. Maybe it gives you a little temperature into where you're at. But if you need permission, then please give yourself grace. Okay, that's just enough of me talking, y'all. Yeah. Yeah. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.